You're listening to a podcast from the BBC World Service. This is Hardtalk with me, Stephen Sacker. Thanks for downloading this edition of the programme. I do hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Hardtalk on the BBC World Service with me, Stephen Sacker. I'm in Cannes, the French Mediterranean city usually associated with the glitz of the annual film festival. Right now, it's not movie stars, but the world's advertising executives who are strutting their stuff along the Croisette as they gather for a week of backslapping and award-giving. Advertising is a highly influential and lucrative component of modern capitalism, and the internet has made it more intrusive and all-pervasive than it's ever been before. No one has exploited the opportunities of this industry better than my guest today, SirMartinSorrell. 30 years ago, he left Saatchi & Saatchi to form his own advertising and marketing company. The name of his new business, WPP, was instantly forgettable. But not for long, because Sorrell transformed WPP into the world's biggest advertising conglomerate, a reflection of his own relentless competitive personality. He's famed for spending much of his life on planes as he oversees an empire straddling 5 continents. He's also known as one of the world's highest paid CEOs, with an overall pay package last year worth more than $60 million. A figure condemned as excessive by critics, but which he claims is a deserved reflection of performance. No one doubts the power and influence of advertising in our 21st century digital economy, but is it used responsibly? Well, SirMartinSorrell joins me now. Welcome to Hardtalk.
Second time round with you.
Second time round, this time in front of an audience here in Cannes. Listen, I want to start by talking about the state of the ad industry today. It seems to me something rather profound is happening in this business. More and more, the most important people in this industry are the statistics guys, the miners of information.
The maths men.
Yeah, the people who can tell you what the great mass of consumers are doing, are thinking, by mining information. Is that true?
Well, the simple answer is yes. They are increasingly important. Whether they're more important, as important, less important is a matter of debate. When I say inside our own company that the media men and women have become more important, creatives using the narrow Don Draper type of definition of a creative, in other words, a creative director of a traditional ad agency, they tend to get a bit upset by that.
But that's the truth, isn't it? This Mad Men image of the creative types pitching for business, whether it be a TV ad or a new billboard campaign, that isn't really where this industry's at.
Well, there are mad men and women, there are maths men and women. It's a much broader, more diverse group, eclectic group of people. You see here in Cannes, I mean, it's a much broader definition. We look back to with rose-tinted spectacles, I think, at that era, but it has changed immeasurably.
It has changed immeasurably, and as a consumer, it seems to me there are reasons for concern. Maybe I'm over-egging it, but it seems to me that short of the intelligence agencies, who we know, thanks to Edward Snowden, know an awful lot more about our private lives than we ever imagined, you guys in your industry now know an awful lot more about our private lives than we expect or maybe have ever given our consent.
I think you're right to be concerned. The public is right to be concerned. It's not just Snowden, it's the NSA. You know, it's the fact that presidents and prime ministers can be bugged, and people are very concerned about privacy. I think the issue is...
Are you, in your business, are you concerned about privacy?
Well, I think there are 2 issues. There's a security issue. I think if you solve the security issue, and that may be just hopeless, I mean, it may be impossible to prevent people hacking and the intrusion. But if you solve the security issue, then I think you've gone a long way to solving the privacy issue. Privacy is about transparency. And you should be transparent with the consumer about what he or she is doing when they connect. I mean, for example, when you try and get onto a website and you look at the terms of agreement, you see the long, turgid pages. It would take you 6 months to get a lawyer to go through it. Nobody reads them. What do? You just say, I agree.
But here's a case I read of recently. I don't think it's apocryphal. I think it's real. A big supermarket business in the UK, which obviously now analyzes the data of all the shoppers and consumers. They saw a particular woman, an individual, had started buying particular products in a way that suggested to them that she had cravings she'd never had before.
Well, was a famous case in the US of a daughter of a man the store involved sort of, it was intimated that she was pregnant.
Yeah, indeed.
And the father was offended, went to the store, and was the last one to know that she was indeed pregnant.
And what's your take on that? Because parts of your business are involved in this data analysis, data mining, and interpretation.
I think as long as the consumer knows what he or she is letting themselves in for, and what the data that is being revealed and may be used, as long as it's transparent in that way, it's okay. For example, we probably know a little bit about you, Stephen, and your purchase habits. We don't know it is you, but we know the nature of your purchasing habits. If you go on Google and search as to what people know about you, which I haven't done, but maybe you've done it in my case, I think you will be surprised at the amount of data about your purchase habits and history, background, and whatever. So the issue is about total transparency and people understanding what they're letting themselves in for. If the individual enters into a bargain and releases that data and in return gets value and understands what they're giving up and what they're getting, it's fine.
Do you think the industry has a trust problem right now? I just want
with
to quote
who?
you words
with
from,
who?
Well, with people not just like me in the media, but with the general public. I mean, let me just finish by quoting you the words of Banksy, the anonymous street artist, who said not so long ago about advertising, he said, they leer at you from tall buildings, they make you feel small, they tell you that you're not sexy enough, and they access the most sophisticated technology in the world to bully you.
I wouldn't say that we bully. I mean, credit consumers with some intelligence. If you mislead, you're penalized. And so if you deliberately bully them, as Banksy said, and we were a great admirer of Banksy's street art, if you bully them, you will create problems for yourself in the longer term. But central to the philosophy and strategy of most of our clients is long-term brand building at the corporate level, at the product level, at the service level. If you're in business for the long term, you will not deliberately mislead the consumer. You will not, to use Banksy's words, bully them. What you will do will try and engage with them, get them to, like you, establish a relationship. So the data may enable you to get an even more meaningful relationship.
What you have done over 30 years at WPP is build a giant, a huge conglomerate, the biggest in the advertising.
I hate the word conglomerate.
Well, you may hate it, but it's true.
No, it's not true. It's a focused, maybe true in your terms of reference, but not mine. It's a connected advertising and marketing service group. We refer to it pretentiously maybe as communication services, but everything we do is integrated in an advertising market. So it's not a conglomerate in the Hal Janine sense of the IT&T or a GE sense of a series of unrelated businesses. When we had our troubles in the early 90s, we looked carefully at the strategy and the structure of the group, and we said there is no point in going through all the ups and downs of the economic cycles unless we have a coherent purpose to what we do. And the coherent purpose is providing our clients, engaging with the media, engaging with the consumers, across the whole range of advertising and marketing services.
But many people in this room probably see the greatest coherence in your group as being the common factor of Martin Sorrell's unending ambition.
That's a bit unfair. Only a little bit. Certainly, my mother.
If I may say so, you are relentless, you are competitive, and you try, frankly, sometimes to take down your rivals.
No,
and Maurice Levy, were he here, probably would say he's been one of them over the years.
No, I don't think I've been very successful in taking him down, and I think he hasn't missed opportunities to do likewise.
This is what he says of you. He said this a couple of years ago. Martin Sorrell never misses an opportunity to be nasty to me, including extremely unpleasant ad hominem attacks. Why do you do that sort of thing?
No, it's not. No, that's Maurice frequently rewrites history.
We should say to people who don't know your industry, he obviously is the boss of one of your major rivals, Publicis.
Number 3 in the pecking order.
You called him the Freddy Krueger of the industry. I mean, What kind of image of yourself are you trying to project?
No, it's not. No, it's very unfair. Because
it's not
what
unfair.
I was asked for was Maurice ever going to retire? And the answer to that is no. So I thought the best way of expressing that was he always comes back. He's like that. When I was young, you had one of those clowns that you pushed and they always came back. This is Maurice. He always comes back.
I don't want to get too stuck on discussing your rivals. I want to stick with you.
You brought it up.
I did, because I'm getting to a point about your leadership style. You are a leader. You are perhaps the best-known voice within your industry, not least because you use it very often. Perhaps you have to think about the way you're perceived. After all, in the last financial year, your own remuneration, overall pay and benefits package, came to some £43 million. You are by far the best paid CEO of a FTSE 100 company in the past year. You outstrip the next guy by something like £25 million. Now,
I think that figure is wrong.
I don't think so. No. If you look at the CEO of Shell...
You're confusing your pounds and your dollars, but let's just come back. Let's just come back to you referred to pay, and you didn't slip the word salary in. It's really pay and performance, right? At the heart of this, 10% of what I earn is in the form of salary. The other 90% is based on
long-term incentives, they call them, yeah.
No, it's deeper than that. I invested cash in the business, with the one exception of when, unfortunately, sadly, I got divorced. It's the only time in 30 years, wait a minute, it's the only time in 30 years that I have disinvested, that I've sold. These are not options.
No, I understand. I do understand the long-term nature of your commitment to this company and the degree to which your rewards...
It's a commitment that goes beyond time and commitment in terms of 24/7 commitment.
No, I understand, and I want you to make the case, but I want you to answer some questions. We don't have so much time. The Institute of Directors recently did a survey. 52% of their own members believe that anger over excessive pay is the biggest threat to public trust in business.
I think anger over excessive pay, if there hasn't been performance, correct. If there has... No, we've increased... In the last 5-year cycle, the market value of WPP went up by something over £12 billion.
But you're in the marketing and the ad business. You know that perceptions matter. The perception is your pay...
Yes, but you can't deny the perception. The reality is also that the value of the company has increased substantially. Similarly, if the value contracts and I keep my investment, which I've committed to do, by the way, so just let's be quite clear about it. Stock has vested under those plans. I have paid tax on those vesting of those plans, and the price is locked in. If the price falls, I would suffer dramatically as well.
Understood.
If the price, this is really fundamental. It's all about tying it to long-term performance. It's not options. Heads I win, tails you lose. Warren Buffett said many years ago,
understand.
You wouldn't give an institution a 10-year call on your stock at zero cost. Why do you do it with management? What happens in America, wait a minute, and has happened in the US, has been that you gave people options, and it was a heads I win, tails you lose. And if the options didn't vest and trigger any value, you reloaded.
We're short of time, so brief answers. Do you think...
I don't do brief, Stephen.
Do you think inequality, rising inequality, the gap between rich and poor in the rich world, is damaging to capitalist systems?
It's a question about what you do with your wealth. One of the books that's been written recently talked about the gap between countries getting narrower, which I think is true, the rise of the BRICS in the next 11, within countries growing inequality, partly because what we've seen post-Labour.
Yeah, from Thomas Piketty to Christine Lagarde, many analysts, economists, and people who are powerful in the business world today say that actually there's reached a point where inequality is damaging capitalism, and that the middle class, the consumers that everybody in your industry needs to reach, are actually stalled in terms of living standards. While this
debate in Davos, and Christine Lagarde came out and said, similar point of view as you. The reverse case is not proven. In those countries where equality was practiced and socialist or even more left-wing systems were put into place, The reverse has not been proven. The general good has not been improved. You look at Cuba, for example. Has it been the case, or Venezuela, has it been the case that those systems have produced greater prosperity? I think the capitalist system does produce greater wealth. If we look at what's happened with the BRICS and Next 11 over the last 20, 30 years, and what will happen over the next 20 or 30 years, those countries have brought so many people into the middle class. Hundreds of millions of people in Brazil, in Russia, in India, in China, in the Next 11, which includes countries like Indonesia and Nigeria and Colombia and Mexico. These are countries that have prospered the system. Now, are there excesses? But it's a question about what you do if you're in a privileged position. What do I do? Formed a modest foundation. It's nothing on the scale of other foundations, but it is a modest effort to take some of that wealth and invest it in causes that are merited.
You're a man of strong opinions, and that's coming out
Not
again
me.
today.
Not me.
I just wonder if you ever change your opinions, and in particular, did you change your opinion on the ethics, the morality of tax avoidance? Because WPP did take its financial headquarters for tax purposes to Ireland, and then you moved it back after an outcry to London. So did you change your mind?
Well, we did. We changed our position on it, and it wasn't my mind; it was the board. The board's
Sure, but you're the leader, and you are dominant in this organisation.
No. That's very unfair. I will invite you to a board meeting, Stephen, and you will see how dominant. You will see the variations.
But let's stick to the point.
No, fine.
You changed your mind.
Now, what happened was Gordon Brown and the Treasury intimated to companies in the UK that they would tax overseas profits whether remitted or not. That was something that was disadvantageous to us because we leave our profitability around the world so that we can invest it in the countries that we're in, by and large, and expand our business organically and by acquisition. And we're very active on the acquisition front. So what we did was we moved our domicile to Ireland to avoid that problem. What then happened was...
Reduce your tax bill.
No, actually, very interesting, not to reduce it, didn't reduce it. It actually avoided the increase that might have come. It never came. The Conservative government, to be very frank, before the election, tried to encourage us to come back. And we said, look, we can't do that unless we have some understanding of what the legislation will be. And you can't say that until you... When they formed the coalition made it quite clear that they would introduce legislation which would remove that obstacle for the life of the Parliament, for 5 years, not for any longer period of time. Now, we discussed it at the board. There were some people on the board that thought, having moved out, we should stay out. I felt that it was a better thing for us to do from a perception point of view and a reality point of view for us to come back.
And
we came back. That legislation has stayed in place for one Parliament. It may be changed, probably unlikely, under the Conservative government, because the Conservative government has been very committed to lower tax rates and being open for business.
Right, but you know what? Before we finish, I have to ask you about another aspect of the climate within which you operate in the UK, and that is Europe.
Yes.
You didn't want Cameron to push ahead with an EU referendum, did you?
Well, I referred to Morton's fork in the election in the sense that, if you voted for Labour, you had a less business-friendly or maybe even unfriendly government led by Ed Miliband. If you voted for the Conservatives, you had more business-friendly. This is a personal opinion, but unfortunately, the baggage with that was you had a European referendum. I think Britain coming out of Europe would be highly negative for the economy.
If Britain voted to leave the European Union, would you take WPP's headquarters, its financial headquarters, out of Britain?
That's a hypothetical question. To be honest with you, it would depend on what the conditions were. I wouldn't rule anything out.
Well, you've become so active in this debate. It seems to me you believe that it's doomsday for the British economy.
I do think it would be highly negative. I hesitate to use the word doomsday, otherwise the headline on the BBC website will be Sorrell predicts doomsday. By the way, on tax for a minute, I said that corporation tax 2 years ago to one of your colleagues on BBC was a matter of judgment, and I was indicted for saying that. History has proven that one thing I got right was that over the last 24 months, people have come to understand that where you base yourself and how you approach corporate taxation is a question of judgment. And people now go back to that interview.
So when judgment's applied, things like ethics and decency
No, but it
matter.
comes back, it's linked to your privacy question. It's really interesting. If you push the boat out too far, you get penalized. If you're balanced in your judgment, then it'll be fine.
Just a final point on Europe. You're highly negative about Britain outside of the European Union. How come that so many serious leaders of businesses, economists, actually take a different view? They published a report just the other day, Change or Go, they called it, saying that unless Cameron achieves fundamental reforms inside the European Union, then Britain should actually benefit from leaving. And these include Luke Johnson, John Moynihan, Andrew Allen, people that you probably know.
All I can tell you is that already amongst our client base is an anxiety about the result of the referendum. The polling that we see and do indicates that the electorate would vote in favor of staying in, for a yes vote. Thank goodness it'll be a yes vote rather than a no vote in this referendum. So I think it's more likely than not. Paradoxically, the longer we wait, the better probably it will be, because the European economy, the Western European economy, here in France, in Italy and Spain, Germany, will probably be better in 70.
Think that? Do you think Europe is still going to be an important
I think
hub
Germany,
for you, despite everything that we see with Greece? And
Germany is very strong. You know, with a weak euro, German exporters rule the roost. The data is distorted by the Ukrainian problems. That's distorting the German data. France, still flat. Italy improving.
So despite your focus on
Spain quite significantly.
You focus so much now on China, on the BRICS, you still seem to believe in Russia, but you believe that
long term in Russia.
Do you? But you still see Europe as vital to your business.
Yes, I would, when you say Europe, it's not just Western Europe, including the UK, it's Central and Eastern Europe too. Poland, Germany, and Russia.
Okay.
I hesitate to use the word axis. That axis of Germany, Poland, and Russia in the longer term is really very, very important.
A final thought. It's a personal one. I think you said once that at business school they made you draw intersecting circles of your investment in
good research,
career, your investment in family, your investment in wider society. Do you think you got the balance right?
Have I got the balance wrong over time? Yes. Am I becoming...
Because you became too driven, too obsessed.
My mother said that. My mother said that I was too obsessed with business. Going to Harvard Business School was the worst thing that happened to me, she said. From a family point of view, probably that's taken a toll. So getting the balance right between those three things, which I thought at the time when I was at HBS, George Cabot Lodge's course it was, Henry Cabot Lodge's son, I thought was meaningless. It's highly meaningful. It's simple. So getting the balance right. As I get older, I get the balance better. But have I got it perfectly? No. And there are very few people that I've come across that have managed to balance family, career, and society. And in my view, they're exceptionally gifted people that can do that.
And if we talk again in 5 years' time, will you still be running the biggest advertising?
That is not in my hands. As I've said before, somebody may cart me off to the glue factory or take me out to the woodshed and shoot me. Say, Martin, you've done enough. Get out of here. But one thing I can guarantee you, Maurice Levy will still be there.
Sir Martin Sorrell, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
That was an edition of Hard Talk presented by me, Stephen Sackur. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.